Good morning and welcome to the Wednesday Word. Last week we noted the start of Lent, of the 40-day period in the church calendar that precedes Easter Sunday. This 40-day period can be described in many ways, and this past Sunday I likened this period of time to that of boot camp, to that time that we require of our military personnel to get into shape and be trained for what lies ahead. And I think all of us would agree that the walk of faith is not easy, and that some conditioning, as it were, is needed to do it well. What lies at the end of that journey, that time that is expended in getting into shape? You know, if we're getting into shape for something, I think we need to ask those kind of questions. We should know what all the strain and the stress is for, and I got to personally tell you, when I'm doing ab crunches later today, I'm going to be asking that question. This Sunday at Westminster, we're going to be turning to one of the most famous passages in the New Testament, and it's a passage that details a visit between Nicodemus, a man of faith, and Jesus. It's a visit that features a conversation about the meaning of life. And what makes this passage famous, let me suggest, comes when Jesus says to Nicodemus that he must be born again. Now, born again is a term that we hear often. What does it mean? Well, there's no way, biologically speaking, that we can crawl back into the womb of our mother, but I think what Jesus is pointing us to today is the need to make a journey that renews us, that reshapes us, that remakes us spiritually. And that's a lifelong journey. I remember my late stepdad, speaking of journeys, speaking of the time that he left for boot camp to become a U.S. Marine during the Second World War. What was that experience like? Well, he had to leave things behind. He had to leave behind his family and his hometown, most obviously, but the experience of boot camp itself made him leave other things behind in his life. So much so that he experienced something of a fresh start in his life. He was not the same person, in short, who left Cincinnati, Ohio. Some things ended when he departed, while some things began. And last week I asked the question as part of the message, who do you want to be in 40 days' time? And that speaks to the idea of a journey and some results from that journey. Here's a question I'm asking of myself, and I ask of you today. Friends, God gives us a chance for a reset in our lives, for a hard stop in some areas of our lives and a fresh start in others, and I hope that's what Lent can be about for us. How, for instance, can we become more loving, more forgiving, demand possibly more from ourselves and others? The possibilities are wide-ranging. And I hope you're going to enjoy our linked video today. You know, when I think about being born again, I tend to think about our public lives, a little less so than our private lives, about the things that you and I do day in and day out around other people. And so the classic African-American spiritual, I'm going to live so God can use me, comes right to mind. And I hope you're going to enjoy this rendition coming to us from a high-spirited worship service led by the Reverend G.E. Patterson and his Memphis, Tennessee-based congregation. Boy, can those folk raise the roof. What is it that makes us a new creation? It is a work of God in line with us also opening ourselves to God. That's what all the strain and stress is about. Here's what the goal of life is, especially this period of Lent. And friends, here's the good news. When we align ourselves with who God wishes us to be, when we open ourselves to that possibility, the journey of life gains so much more than we can possibly imagine. And here I'm brought back to my late stepdad. It was tough serving in the uniform of a United States Marine in World War II. And yet that same experience led to further education for him, that led him in time to become a U.S. diplomat and to serve our country well in places he could little imagine he would travel to. places such as Pakistan and Mali and Vietnam and France. It was a life he never could have imagined, but it was made possible for him because he left some things behind and opened himself to what God would do in his life. And so, until next week, may God continue to bless your Lenten journey. May you open yourself to what is new and life-giving, perhaps leaving behind what is life-limiting. And may God continue to make good use of you, my friends, day in and day out. Amen and amen.